Yesterday, Stephen Miller went on to CNN and they talked for like 20 minutes, just a marathon interview session. And at the end of the day, well, Stephen Miller was walking off with the heavyweight championship belt, and CNN left on the mat in a bloody hole. I want to show you the highlights because it would be epic to show you the whole thing. And I'd love to. I would. Seek it out. Find the whole interview. But here is your Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, yesterday, kicking a little ass.
Do you have any idea how much of ICE's workforce and resources have had to be reprioritized? How much of the Joint Terrorism Task Force's resources have had to be reprioritized to fight these domestic terrorists? Do you have any idea how many resources are spent?
You keep
trying
calling
to
them
hunt down and
terrorists, but
track
isn't that hyperbolic to call them terrorists?
What is? If anything, I'm understating the severity of the situation. What issue was more central in 2024 than turning back the border invasion? And since the day we came in, ICE officers have been subjected to a nonstop campaign of physical violence and harassment every single day. And outside the Portland field office in particular, every night, they come, they assemble, they fight, they try to impede movement, they physically attack. For what purpose? Because we had an election, Boris. We had one. What's the purpose? To use actual physical violence to change the result of the election, to say you cannot turn back the border invasion. Do you have any idea how many resources we have had to redesignate to deal with these street terrorists?
Yeah, you said that already. Please stop delivering facts to our viewers. At CNN, we're not used to that. It was beautiful and exquisite. By the way, the question that led up to this, and again, I implore you to watch the whole interview because our show would just be 3 hours long if we broke it down. But the question that Boris Sanchez asked here had to do with deploying federal law enforcement into a city or into a state from D.C. And there are only three reasons that you can do that. It has to do with armed insurrection, rebellion. But the last one is that if there are criminal elements who are impeding federal officers from doing their job, which obviously that's the case here. But this guy, Boris, said, well, it seems like ICE seems to be doing just fine. They're not being impeded from doing their job. I mean, we've all seen the videos of these people surrounding vehicles, ramming into them, trying to get in the way, becoming human shields, laying down on the pavement. And so that's why Stephen Miller responded.
Any idea how much of ICE's workforce and resources have had to be reprioritized? How much of the Joint Terrorism Task Force's resources have had to be reprioritized?
That's right. So the whole point is, Boris is like, they don't seem to be impeded. The ICE is going ahead and doing their job. Meanwhile, like over half of their resources are being committed to crowd control and trying to keep these lunatics from getting in the way of these ICE officers actually doing their job. It was a completely disingenuous challenge to Stephen Miller, but it doesn't matter. No matter how disingenuous it is, Stephen Miller chews this guy up and spits him out. Here's a little bit more.
If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear of yours?
Yes, these are just demonstrations that are getting rowdy, don't you see? That's all. They're all dressed up in their black hoods, and they got their, bats and their shields and their umbrellas to block security cameras. They got their masks. They're laying down in front of vehicles. They're sending other vehicles in to ram the vehicles. It's just demonstrations that get rowdy. And by the way, this whole thing, you won't like it when Democrats are in charge. We've lived through this junk, okay? The Tea Party movement of 2010 was literally the most peaceful political movement you will ever see. And they still sent federal agents in. They still sent cops in. They still called us racist. They still called us insurrectionists. They said that we were separatists, that we were trying to reform the federal government and keep them from taking all of our money and shoving Obamacare down our throats, which, by the way, is exactly what they did. And that's why we have a government shutdown right now. But that's a whole other story. But this whole idea, what about when a Democrat's in charge and conservatives are just demonstrating and it gets a little rowdy? So here's CNN, the fiery but mostly peaceful CNN, doing the exact same thing that they always do. It's just a demonstration that got rowdy. Miller was ready for it. This is great.
That gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear of yours?
They're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaging in vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested some 70 people since June.
Troops
they've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They refute what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of the stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
This once again proves my point that people who are in the business of delivering news to you don't actually follow the news. When Stephen Miller said that local police are impeding the ability of ICE agents to do their job and standing down when those ICE agents are in danger, you knew exactly what he was talking about. If you watch our program, you would have heard the audio of the police dispatcher in Chicago giving the stand down order and the graphic image of the leaked screenshot that showed exactly that dispatcher saying the exact same thing that the chief had said. Leave them alone. Don't go anywhere near it. Those cops are, surrounded. They're in trouble, but we're going to just let them be in trouble. Boris there at CNN had no idea what Stephen Miller was talking about because they don't follow the news. They're CNN. And then, of course, I think we're about 10, maybe 11 minutes into this interview. So it was time, obviously, to call Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Kristi Noem and all the ICE agents and Border Patrol officers, and ultimately you for supporting them and voting for them. It was time to call you racist. So, all right, go ahead, Boris. Let's hear it.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks. They're taking jobs away from whites. They're taking jobs away from Latinos. They're taking their health benefits away. They're taking their school slots away. And of course, in many cases, they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens. And that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration
I said it's a dumb question.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. But
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed.
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no. That is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
It's just a beautiful moment, by the way. As something tells me, Boris doesn't truly appreciate Stephen Miller trying to qualify the question. I could be wrong. Something tells me he doesn't, considering the qualification was how stupid a question it was. Can we just watch? Keep your eye on Stephen Miller's face, by the way, as he jumps in here and says that it's a stupid question.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who.
It really is. It really is. You're profiling brown people. Yeah. Who suffers economically the most because of illegal immigration in this country? That would be people of color, who are predominantly the highest rate of victims of rape and pedophilia, child molestation, kidnapping, murder, assault, grand larceny. What class and group of people in this country are predominantly the victims of all of those crimes at the hands of illegal immigrants? That would be other brown people, as he puts it. Oh, by the way, also one other deceitful thing that I hate journalists do is it's not asking a question specifically about, see, if he really wanted information here and he wanted to inform his viewers about what goes into and who gets identified as a potential target for an ICE operation, he would have said, Stephen, could you please lay out the criteria involved in targeting a suspect here? Do you always know who you're going after? Do you have their names? Are they already vetted out and you know that they've been in the country illegally and you know where they are? Or are there other characteristics? Does it have something to do with maybe the way they dress or where they're living or what their location might be, their behavior, or maybe even race? Because we know that proper law enforcement techniques often utilize race as one of the identifying criteria when you're targeting a potential suspect. So could you please inform us of that? But see, that wasn't the question, was it? No, listen again to the question.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
Let me rephrase the question, which basically was just asked by CNN. Isn't the Democrat governor of Illinois who wants to run for president, isn't he right when he says that you people are racist? That's what he just said. That's exactly what he just said. This was a weird thing. So a couple of minutes into this interview, and I've told you about this before, right outside the White House, you can see the White House in the background there. This is on the north lawn. The south lawn is where the president goes out, where Marine One is there, and he often talks to the media, and he gets into Marine One. That's facing the Ellipse, which faces the Washington Monument and the National Mall and the Thomas Jefferson Memorial beyond. This is on the other side of the building. So the West Wing is right behind Stephen Miller there. If you see that lane there behind him, that's the little walkway that takes you right into the part of the West Wing space, which is where the briefing room is. This is where all the reporters go for their press briefing. The Roosevelt Room is also there behind the press briefing, and then that leads eventually into the Oval Office on the West Wing. All along that lane there, this is right off Pennsylvania Avenue, where Lafayette Square is, where all the BLM demonstrations were, where they were trying to, burn down the White House and climb over the fence to get to Donald Trump. You remember that insurrection the first week of June 2020? And then there's a church right over there. That's where Trump the next day came out and defiantly showed a Bible and said, screw you, you're not going to burn down the church that's been here 200 years across from the White House. Anyway, right along that lane where Stephen Miller is standing, you've got all of these tents. There's like 8 of them. They call it Pebble Beach for some reason. I think because that lane used to be sort of full of gravelly, pebbly kind of pebbles there. And each of the networks, they lease out space in those little green tents so that their reporters can stand up and report live from the White House with that background, right? Or sometimes, like in this case, administration officials will come and they'll do a long interview with the network on their Pebble Beach space. Now, the reason I give you all this background is, first of all, because I work in DC in the media, so I can tell you these things so you're better informed when you see it when you're watching television, but also to explain to you that these things, they're all wired. They're like little mini television studios that have live direct feeds back to the Washington Bureau for whatever network happens to be there, and all the networks have their space there. They're constantly in use. They're constantly, at least during daytime hours, they're constantly connected back to the studio. And there's a constant feed going on with either reporters or administration officials here. Sometimes it's live, sometimes it's taped, but it works like clockwork. It's very rare for there to be a technical problem. This isn't like new technology that they've just discovered. So that's why this was really interesting. In the opening minutes of this interview, when Stephen Miller was obviously full of piss and vinegar, loaded for bear, and starting to really show his stuff against Boris here, watch what happened. Inexplicably, watch what happened.
By the way, you've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that and get back to you after a quick break. Stay with CNN.
Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? These feeds work all the time. Listen, there are other feeds that have wonkiness to them and doesn't always, but it's not like this was a new location or something, sort of, no, something happened. All I'm saying is something happened. Someone could have done something. Let me also add another factoid in here that you can just take into account. I'm not saying anything malicious happened. I'm just delivering information to you, but that happened. You just saw it happen. And also, I think it's fair to say that most of the people who work at CNN, production assistants, producers, and the like, they hate Stephen Miller. Right? That's all I'm saying. I wonder if CNN is investigating what happened there. I'd love to know. Meanwhile, you know that Stephen Miller is effective in doing a good job because the most important, prominent, biggest fundraiser, and frankly, spokesperson at this point for what's left of the Democrat Party is focusing directly on Stephen Miller. He has got her attention, and she has had it with him. Of course, I'm talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
When Democrats get desperate, they start hoaxing. We got carpet bombed with hoaxes leading up to the election, and now they're circling back. Senate Minority Leader AOC just debuted the Mini Miller hoax.
Stephen Miller is a clown. I've never seen that guy in real life, but he looks like he's like 4'10", and he looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10".
Primetime measured Miller, he's 5'10", with no shoes on. He told us, quote, "It sounds like AOC needs a new therapist." AOC really shouldn't throw stones. Her fiance's no Prince Charming. Look at him. Legs crossed, Birkenstocks, straws. 3 strikes, you're out. But when we talk about her, AOC says we're just jealous and want to date her. We don't. And maybe her fiance doesn't either because they've been engaged for over 3 years. Meanwhile, Miller's a stud with a wife and 3 kids. And now AOC fans want her to apologize for body shaming him.
Also, someone said, short kings are great. Absolutely. I'm not here. I want to absolutely make sure that I talk about that. I'm not here to make fun of anyone's anything, but the way people overcompensate over their own stories is what I'm talking about there. So thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, people do overcompensate for their own stories. In fact, someone should introduce her to Hakeem Jeffries. Case in point. But it's good to know that people's physical appearance is fair game now. When we're giving our political commentary, we will now bear that in mind. You bucktooth beaver. Real fast, though, I just want to make sure I caught something here as we were talking about the video. What was this that Jesse was?
He really shouldn't throw stones. Her fiance's no Prince Charming. Look at him. Legs crossed, Birkenstocks, straws.
What's the straws thing? Is that like a beta thing to drink with straws? I never knew about this. Sometimes I'll use a straw. I bring my own plastic ones. I'm not using the paper garbage. Legs crossed, Birkenstocks, absolutely fair game. Also, let's not forget that he's a ginger, a pasty-skinned freckled ginger, which is, disturbing. Also, one other fact check here for Jesse, and I love Jesse, but real fast.
3 strikes, you're out. But when we talk about her, AOC says we're just jealous and want to date her. We don't. And maybe her fiance doesn't either because they've been engaged for over 3 years.
No, let me just clarify that. It's true. They've been engaged for like 3 years and they haven't gotten married. But see, there's a reason for that. This way, they can play shell games with the money they make. You see, she can hire him on her political action committee. She can raise all the money. He makes all the money, but they don't have to claim it on their forms because they're not married. You only have to do that with spouses, you see. So this is all part of the grift. It's actually a brilliant move as to why they didn't get married, I suppose. Although if I were him, I'd try to get some kind of contractual agreement so that she can pay alimony at some point for him when it all goes sour. Anyway, Miller was also on Laura Ingraham last night. Instead of just providing a quote about AOC, he actually, he went completely unplugged.
Stephen, AOC is you're her favorite target apparently on Instagram. Check this out.
He looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10. And he looks like he is so mad that he is 4'10 that he's taking that anger out at any other population possible. Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them.
Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them. I wish I had a hoodie on. I mean, are we trying to play sorority sister as elected official? I don't know. I was at a sorority over the weekend over in Texas. I felt like I was back at the sorority house, except they had more sense. Stephen, quick response.
Well, we knew that her brain didn't work. Now we know their eyes don't work. So I mean, she is a mess, right? What a train wreck. What a train wreck.
I think you should just get a hoodie. You should just wear a hoodie from now on and respond to her in a hoodie. It should be hoodie to hoodie. Stephen,
yes,
thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the important point is that every time she's on TV, Republican approval ratings go up, Democrat approval ratings go down. That lady is a walking nightmare.
You're about, I know you for 20 years. You're about 5'10", 11. About 5'10", yes. So 4'10". Yes. I don't know what she can say. All right, Stephen, thank you very much.
There you go. By the way, she's right about the laugh at them part, but that's the advice we should have. I don't know if you noticed how many times during this segment we've seen Stephen Miller look like that and laugh at people who are attacking him and are calling him every name in the book and trying to mischaracterize who he is and what he stands for and what he said. That's the only real response. Laugh at them. It's why my buddy Andrew Breitbart, when reporting on Antifa, before they were called Antifa at the time, would strap on rollerblades as he was in the midst of them because, well, it's funny. And that's exactly what they deserve. Also, real quick note, since there was a lot of talk about the hoodie there, in D.C. last night, it was like 72, 73 degrees. Probably one of the last beautiful nights here before the chills of autumn and winter come in. So I don't know why she was wearing the hoodie other than it was a look. Finally, on Ingram, a little bit before that moment, Miller did make one salient point that we'll pick up on in a few minutes here with regard to Jabba the Hutt Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and what's really going on in that city right now.
Well, first of all, he uses the term, think about this, he uses the term invasion force. This fool, Governor Pritzker, uses the term invasion force to describe federal law enforcement. He is adopting the language and the narrative of the paid insurrectionists and the Antifa mobs. The invasion force were the 20 million illegal aliens that Biden flooded into this country, taking our jobs, taking our wages, filling up our hospitals, destroying God knows how many schools, and of course leading to countless rapes, assaults, and murders. That was the invasion force. President Trump was elected on a mandate to turn that invasion back, to send those illegals home. And Governor Pritzker is providing aid and comfort to the riotous mob that is physically assaulting, obstructing, impeding, and attacking ICE officers. And his latest act, declaring that there are no-go zones where federal law enforcement is not permitted, is truly an act of insurrection against the federal government.
That is brilliant. That is correct. That is fact-based, especially when you see the videos backing up what Stephen Miller is saying. And that right there is why they can't stand him. That right there is why they hate him. That right there is why they're attacking him. And that right there is why we love Stephen Miller, your Deputy Chief of Staff in the Trump White House.